So today we are starting on the video essay of Bolivia done by Elizabeth Cabuslay. What we are aiming to answer today are what elements mark Evo Morales' political campaign and/or government as populist? What social legal conditions gave rise to this brand of populism? And what impacts have populist politics had on Bolivarian legal institutions? So first things first, we have to define what populism is. So it is the support for the concerns of ordinary people, and it is a political program or movement that relates to the common person, usually by challenging or opposing the beliefs of the elite. Populism usually combines elements of the left and the right, opposing large businesses and financial interests, but also frequently being hostile to the established socialist and labor parties. Populism is a set of ideas based on not only the Manichean distinction between the people and the elite, but on the notion that politics is also about following a self-evident general will. The populism model is a structuralist approach that links populism to a particular historical period and set of economic policies. It is the leader's ability to reach those who regard themselves as having no voice in the political system. From Della Torre and Arnson in the reading, populism looks different depending on the continent you are looking at in relation to their quote that quasi-religious and ethical struggle between good and evil, redemption and downfall. Populists characterize their rivals, of both the left and the right, as enemies of the leader, the people, and by the extension, the whole nation. By looking at popular Latin American politics, also written by Della Torre and Arnson in the reading, it's more how the Latin American leaders, in a distinguishing feature of contemporary radical populism, Chavez, Morales, and Correa, lead self-described revolutionary governments that aim to refound the political and cultural institutions of their respective countries. Specifically looking at Bolivia, we are looking at Juan Evo Morales Aima, or Evo Morales, the leader of Movimiento al Socialismo, or MAS, and he relates society through his background as he was one of 7 children to farmers, and only he and 2 siblings survived past childhood. He also relates to the minorities as he identifies himself as indigenous of the Aymara indigenous group, and he grew up speaking the Aymara language. An example of Evo Morales speaking for his fellow citizens is this video right here.
La democracia indígena no hay mayorías y minorías. La democracia de mayorías y minorías, perdone, que quiero decir la verdad, es importado del occidente. En la democracia indígena se aprueba de consenso. Si hay un problema, sobre el problema una propuesta, y esa propuesta resuelve de igual a todos, se aprueba de consenso. Yo estoy acá en Estados Unidos para agradecer el acompañamiento de la comunidad internacional en el diálogo sincero, que vean quién tiene razón. Y la comunidad internacional se dio cuenta que nosotros tenemos razón. El gobierno nacional va a garantizar una Bolivia unida con autonomías departamentales, autonomías regionales, autonomías indígenas. Lo que dije, hay que juntar los estatutos autonómicos con la nueva constitución, un estado plurinacional, donde estén los mestizos, los criollos, los indígenas, los quechuas, aymaras, los negros, todos. pero también estamos apostando por una economía plural, donde se respeta la propiedad privada, se respeta la propiedad estatal, pero también la propiedad comunal, la propiedad colectiva, son asociaciones cooperativas. Hemos decidido que los servicios básicos, el agua, la luz, teléfonos, sean un derecho humano. Si es un derecho humano, no puede ser de negocio privado, sino un servicio básico. ¿Cómo es posible que el agua va a ser negocio privado? En esta nueva constitución política del Estado boliviano, nos planteamos que los servicios básicos es un derecho humano, por tanto debe ser de servicio público. Yo siento que es muy avanzado en esta constitución política.
So, as we see, Evo Morales is very convincing in his words that he generates to the whole of Bolivian culture. When looking at Bolivia and its history, before 1950, the Rosca, who consisted of the tiny elite, were being challenged by the mine workers' union. The Movimiento Nacionalista Revolucionario, or the MNR, which means Revolutionary Nationalist Movement, also emerged during this time, which provided a link between a small middle class and more popularly based political currents with influence in the union movement. It became recognized in Villarroel's ruling, which was in 1943 to 1946, when it rallied popular movements behind the nationalist and authoritarian government. During the 1952 revolution, it was a response to the political crisis provoked to overrule the 1951 election results as the citizens opposed of MNR leader Victor Paz Estensoro. It was inspired by the Latin American populism that first emerged in Argentina. It resulted in structural reforms, nationalization of Bolivia's main mines, and initiation of a process of agrarian reform. The MNR development sought to diversify the economy and reduce dependence on single export, which promoted industrialization. In 1985 came the new economic policy, which was the undoing of structures, ironically written, again, by Victor Paz Estensoro through the 1952 revolution. It reduced the scale of state intervention and freed up the economy to the market. It made a heavy blow to the trade union movement caused by closing down a majority of public sector mines, and as drugs replaced the Cold War as key preoccupation in Washington, the U.S. foreign policy shifted its previous support from the Bolivian military. Also came De Lozaro's Law of Popular Participation in 1994. Since Morales' inauguration in 2006, Bolivia has gone through an interrupted period of economic growth and relative political stability. Prices for natural gas, which is the country's most important export, have plummeted, though it continues to show impressive GDP growth. Employment numbers, mean wages, and poverty rates have continued to move in the right direction, which have made Bolivarian legal institutions exposed